All right, crafty buddies, it is that time of the month again. Maybe not what you're thinking, but it is time for 5 Under 5. While I'm recording this, it is July 4th, so happy belated 4th because you're not going to see this till the 5th. And any noises you hear in the background, that's what you're hearing. All right, so this month's theme is Thrift Flips. So, starting with my first one here, and this was the one that was most time consuming, I guess. So I got this frame, and this was obviously somebody's like DIY. I don't love the color. It is kind of busted up a little bit, but it really doesn't matter. I took the wreath off, and I am going to use that. I saved it, don't worry. I'm going to use that for future projects, probably in the fall. So I sanded it down really well, but I left a little bit of all the colors because I do kind of want to distress back and show some of that. So I'm going to give the whole thing a good coat of Waverly chalk paint in the color ink. I am only doing one coat. Now I'm being very thorough, but it's only one coat because, like I said, I want to distress it a little bit, and I want some of that turquoise and some of the wood and some of the white. I want all the different colors to show through a little. So I went over the front and sides and insides and all that, but I didn't bother painting the back at all because you're really not going to see it. So I initially tried to sand it with the sandpaper for my circular sander. You kind of see over there on the right. And it didn't go well. And I'll address that on another project later. So I just used a really old emery board that had about had it and didn't have a whole lot of grit left, so it wasn't going to take much off because that's what I wanted. I don't like an overly distressed look. That's just my personal preference for my home. So then I went over it with a baby wipe to clean it up because you saw my hands, and that's what this whole thing looked like. And also just to get a little bit of wet distressing. So I got what I wanted. I got some wood, I got some turquoise, I got some white showing through. I'm liking the way this looks, so I'm moving on to my next step. I got this faux pressed tin from Dollar Tree. We have all seen this in many projects. I've used it several times. In fact, it was a project not that long ago that gave me this idea. So I'm cutting it into pieces, which turns out to kind of be useless later. Anyway, and then I'm taking that back off because it is actually the white part that I want. So instead of the pressed part, I guess it's the depressed part. I guess is how you would say it. But anyway, it's already white. So I thought I would give this a try. So I'm just making sure that it's trimmed to fit in that space pretty well. It's pretty tight on one side, and then there's a lot of extra on the other sides because, you know, I'm putting a square into a rectangle, so that's what you get. And I used tape adhesive. Now, this is not like the best quality tape adhesive that's out there, but it's, you know, what I had access to because I'm rearranging my craft area and I couldn't find my really nice stuff. But I will link the really, really good stuff instead of this stuff in my description. So I'm just going as close to the interior edges of my little rectangles as I possibly can and pressing it down really well. And then I'm going to center up my pressed tin piece or depressed tin piece. Centering it as well as I can and just taping it down basically. So that's kind of it. It's an easy project. It was just time consuming. Now, you'll see in a little bit when I flip it over that it kind of was pointless for me to cut the pieces up the way that I did. The reason that I did it was because I wanted those designs to be centered. And it just didn't work out that way. So I think that I probably could have saved myself some time and just, you know, trimmed two pieces, you know, to fit well. But, you know, it is what it is. It's done. It's fine. I am also going to cover the entire back with paper. All right, so here is the front of it. It's all done. All in all, it cost me about $4. And I do think it is really cute. You could leave it like this, or, put pictures on it. I have this like sconce that would be really cute on it. There's several different options. All right, so like I said earlier, this is July's 5 Under 5. It is Thrift Flips. And as always, our hosts are Emily from Farm Charm Chic and Missy from the Crafty Cove. If you've not checked out their channels, you absolutely need to. And I am the guest host this month. Yes, me, Erin Glenn of Aimless Squirrel. All right, moving on. Now, the next two really probably I might should have stuck in with just one, but I put them in different places. They're kind of different uses, but I'm basically doing the same thing. All right, so I got this corbel. That's a corbel, right? Yeah. I think I actually maybe got this at a garage sale, but I'm pretty sure I paid less than 60 cents for it, which is pretty darn good. So I am going to paint it white, but I first went over it with like watered down antiquing wax because, again, going to distress it a little bit. I don't want it to look brand new. I like more of the darker brown to show through as opposed to the natural wood. So I'm not at all worried about this particular layer of the wax looking good. It's messy and I'm totally fine with that. I just slapped it on there and I was running out and I barely had enough to get the whole thing done. All right, so I did that coat and I let it dry. Not really 100% sure that I let it dry enough because there is a little bit of bleed through, but that's okay. All right, so then I went over it with the Waverly chalk paint in white. Now this stuff is very old and it is so insanely thick. Y'all see that? It's like paste. So there was a lot of I would glob it on and then just have to spread it the best I could over it. So it definitely only took one coat because it was so thick. And I painted almost the entire thing with just what was on that brush. So after doing this part, realized I can't use that paint anymore. But I did decide that there is an excellent use for the bottle. And here it is. I just stuck that thing down on the bottle so that it was lifted up a little bit. It was easier for me to paint. I didn't have to hold on to it. But I do have another bottle of it, so I'm good. All right. So I did not show, and here's me going what is on my counter? Y'all, one thing nobody told me about parenting was that everything is going to be sticky. There are going to be substances everywhere. You don't know what they are. All right. So there's my rant. All right, moving on. So I didn't get it on film because, just issues, but I did sand it lightly. Didn't do a whole lot. And then I found a drill bit that was about the size of these flags and did 5. I really wasn't all that concerned with exactly where they were. And, that's all I'm doing here is shoving in flags. I don't know what to tell you. So that was pretty simple. I also did remove the screw at the bottom so that it could sit flat. And I think it's so pretty. I think it is a really, really good addition to a 4th of July or just patriotic display. All right. Moving on to my next one. I got this at a thrift store. I think I maybe paid about $1. It looks like it's the leg of something, and it's been through some things, and it's seen some stuff, and it doesn't recommend it, but I love it. And it does already have a hole at the top, so I just worked with that. Now I have these much larger flags, and by the way, I did get the flags at Walmart. They just came in packages of 14 or something like that. All right, so I didn't have to do anything to this, really. The only thing I had to do to this was just drill a bigger hole. The only thing I had to do to the flag was I trimmed off a little bit with my little not table sander, oh my gosh, little bitty tiny table saw. And that's it. And then I stuck the flag in there. So this is for outdoors. I didn't leave it in the middle of our walkway. That was just for photos. It's on my little porch patio. It's so small. I feel silly calling it a porch. Anyway, it's so cute. And I think it's a nice way of elevating the flag and making it stand out a little more. All right, so picked this up at a thrift store. I think I paid 50 cents for it. Getting that sticker off was a doozy. I had to use olive oil and a sandpaper. And so I tried to sand down a little bit, and you can kind of see it here that because I've already done a layer of paint. And this side especially, like that sandpaper, it just gouged like these deep gouges in it. So it's supposed to be like 120 grit, but I don't know. I think there was something on it that maybe was making all those gouges. So I just quit sanding and just decided to paint over it. And I'm using this folk art chalkboard paint, and I had already previously done one coat. There was a little bit of gold on the metal part, and I went ahead and painted that as well. And I gave each side 2 coats. I was a little bit worried I was going to have to do a third because that one side is just so jacked up, but I just worked with it. So, like I said, 2 coats I did on each side. I really, like along the sides, I really just did 1 coat. That really seemed to be enough. And I was just really careful on the side where it was close to the middle that I didn't paint over that. Although I'm pretty sure I did get some over there, but not really that big of a deal because it's black. So the messed up side is the one that's just going to stay the same. And I think it was Emily from Farm Charm Chic do something similar to this once. I think she called it a fend night, like where you're fending for yourself. I just put figure it out. That's what we always tell them. We're like, yeah, what are we having for dinner tonight? Figure it out. So I thought that with all the jaggedness on the back that it would be better for me to just use like a chalk marker and write it myself. But I think that might have been a mistake. I think it may have actually been better for me to do vinyl. Although I don't think the vinyl would have stuck down all that well either because of how messed up that side is. So I'm not sure what the best solution for this would have been. To the neater. I just cannot help but laugh at myself when I see this because I lined it up with that side piece instead of what it would be, standing like that. So it's all, diagonal instead of up and down. But it's fine. Anyway, the other side, I'll just write what we're going to have for dinner that night. This last one, I don't even know if you can call this a thrift flip, but I got this thread. Is it a spool? I think these are spools. Anyway, I got this it was a thrift store or garage. I think this may have actually been a garage sale. And I think it was like less than 60 cents, which is pretty good for these things because they can, if you go to get it at an antique store, they can be kind of expensive. So I have this ribbon, lacy, crochet-y looking ribbon that they sell at Dollar Tree. And it seems to be one of theirs that's just kind of always there. So, and I do use it a good bit. I really do like it. So I just decided to wind that on there. And I had a couple little scrap pieces. I went ahead and put those on first and then wound this over it. And then when I got to the very end, I just kind of tucked it into some of the other pieces. And then I do kind of try and spread it out a little bit because I wanted it to take up a little bit more and look a little bit more fluffed out, I guess. But as much as I like the stark contrast of black and white that is more the modern farmhouse, I really just am a vintage girl at heart, and so I love the wood and the kind of cream and that it is kind of a vintage looking lacy ribbon. So it's so pretty. And it goes really well with some of my other vintage things. All right, guys, that is it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a wonderful 4th, and I will see you next time.